A couple of years ago, I made my first Serious Sam video on this channel, and as expected, looking back on it, it's complete dog shit. I was recording audio using my phone and recording footage the same time that I was writing the script. Safe to say, I've gotten a bit better over the years, mostly thanks to the motivation that you guys give me with your kind words and comments, so thank you. Ever since I released that first video, I've been wanting to remake it, especially since the addition of Siberian Mayhem and a bunch of cool discoveries made by the community. And I was recently motivated by a comment I saw on the Serious Sam subreddit in a thread discussing theories. And I saw one of my theories pop up in the comments, and then someone name dropped me. So of course I couldn't let... however I'm supposed to pronounce this... Dr. Essen, whatever, I couldn't leave you hanging. And I got to work on the new and improved Serious Sam Iceberg. Since my video, there have been many community additions, as well as some discoveries that I've made myself by breaking the game or going a bit out of bounds. If I don't cover something, it either wasn't interesting enough, or it was just something like a regular mod or map pack, or I couldn't find anything on it. At this point, I don't really have to explain how an iceberg video works, but I will be updating my old confidence counter. That's better. So with that being said, sit back, relax, grab a drink and a snack, and enjoy the ultimate Serious Sam Iceberg. Big Heads. The Big Heads are Crow Team's self-insert into the game. Usually hidden in secret areas, they can be found in the first encounter, second encounter, and 3 BFE. Though in the second encounter and 3 BFE, all they do is walk around and introduce themselves. In the first encounter, if you let them walk down the temple ramp, they'll stop and start whistling Crow Team's theme.
Shut up!
Weirdly enough, I couldn't get this to work in Fusion, they just kinda scatter around into the desert. Supposedly they're canon to the series because we see them at the start of the second encounter and they're the whole reason we crash in South America. However, the entire canonicity of the second encounter is completely debatable. The model for the Big Heads was originally supposed to be the model for Mental, the series antagonist. However, Mental's model has changed a bit recently into a more Lovecraftian horror type being, as we can see from these banners, though we'll go more into that in a later entry. Iconic Serious Sam enemy. Serious Sam has had a handful of iconic enemies. Most notable are the Headless Kamikaze and the Clear Skeletons. The Kamikaze is notable for their iconic scream, and the Clear Skeletons are known for being in nearly every single arena in the game. Do you have any idea how many clear alleys we've had so far? Despite being iconic in their own series, it's pretty rare to find these guys outside of Serious Sam titles, with the exception of Ugzan 3, who strangely enough makes an appearance in the anime Hayate the Combat Butler. Mental. Mental is the series' antagonist, though Mental isn't actually his real name, it's the name that humanity gave him. We don't actually know his real name, but he goes by Tahum, meaning the One Infinite, as well as going by these other aliases. What we know about him is that Mental is the last of his now extinct race of godlike creatures known as the Hum-Ta, or the Infinite Ones. They were a race that ruled over empires until they somehow died out. There's a text by another alien species known as the Aliens that explains this a little bit. Of the infinite, there are 3 kinds. Lost ones, they are lost in infinity, and useless. Ones that create, they were our gods. They were finited. Ones that destroy, they were banished, but the one infinite is still. There are some interesting things to unpack in this text, specifically the second verse. The ones that created, they were our gods, they were finited. It's interesting that they use the term finited, which means to make finite or not infinite. meaning that someone or something in the universe has the power to make the infinite ones finite. Someone more powerful than the infinite ones. After all the Humta passed away, Mental was left as the last one. Slowly being driven insane by the loneliness, he developed a hatred towards the younger races and vowed to destroy them for being able to avoid the fate that his kin suffered. Mental's propaganda shows him as this Lovecraftian horned creature, with one exception, being the jetpack. The jetpack found in 3BFE is presumably Mental affiliated and has this symbol which looks more Cthulhu-esque. However, it's completely possible that this is just a unit symbol used by Mental's forces. Our military uses them too to be able to discern between units. We get to see Mental's arm a little bit in the next encounter, however that game isn't canon. And in Serious Sam Tormental, we see Mental as this shadowy, looming figure. The only other mention is the Mental Atlanti Corporation from Serious Sam's Bogus Detour, which is a corporation which works as an R&D group for Mental. Some enemies like the biomechanoid are mentioned to be created in Mental's biolab, meaning that he has an interest in these forms of sciences. He's also been known to have the ability to bestow magical powers on other creatures like the reptiloids and bring back other creatures from the dead such as the beheaded and the clear skeletons. So it's safe to say this guy's pretty smart. Undercode. Undercode is a heavy metal rock band founded in Zagreb, Croatia in 1997 and is still ongoing. This band is best known for providing the rock and war soundtracks for the Serious Sam games. Some of their music in the Serious Sam games include Enlightening the World, better known as Mordecai's fight theme, Hero, the current theme for Serious Sam, and the remaster of Freedom, known as Freedom 2 in Siberian Mayhem. On a complete side note, I just want to say that I'm actually a pretty big fan of their music, and my favorite song, 100%, is Ashes to Ashes, just for that guitar solo. It is so good, and it is a damn shame that Crow Team has not used it in a mainline Serious Sam game. It is so good. Serious Bomb logo. The Serious Bomb logo has been a staple of the series ever since the first encounter. Created by Crow Team, the logo has always found its way onto Sam's shirt one way or the other. In the original first encounter, it was on Sam's undershirt and noticeably large. In the second encounter, the size was toned down a bit, but they gave Sam a regular t-shirt. In the HD remasters, they kept the t-shirt but ripped off one of Sam's sleeves, revealing a tattoo of the Serious Bomb logo. In Serious Sam 2 and 3, it remains on his chest. Interestingly enough though, in early concept art for Serious Sam 3, Sam was actually meant to have the bomb on his sleeve. You can still see it here on the box art and some of the Steam wallpapers. Finally, in Serious Sam 4 and Siberian Mayhem, Sam has a redesign of the bomb, now noticeably smaller on the left side of his shirt right on his chest. Duke Nukem references. Boomer shooters like to poke fun at each other all the time.
This is getting serious.
But there's a specific rivalry going on between Serious Sam and Duke Nukem. All the way back in the second encounter, you can find this phone booth right behind where you land. Interacting with it reveals this.
Hello, operator. Give me Las Vegas.
Hello?
Blondie, is it you?
No, it's Jones.
Ah, when will he come?
He will come when he's done, boy.
Done with what? I've been waiting forever for him to show up.
So the term Blondie obviously refers to the Duke's blonde hair, and the comment of forever is a joke at the expense of Duke Nukem Forever, which was stuck in development hell for way too long. In Serious Sam 2, once you reach Magnor, you can find these items lying around.
Secret Duke's hat has been found. Secret Duke's coat has been found. Secret Duke's skeleton has been found.
Dude, you've been hanging here like forever.
This is what 14 years of development hell will do to a man. The irony is that Serious Sam 2 is considered the series' worst entry. Damian Mravenak. Damian is the music composer behind the entire Serious Sam franchise. Think of any song in the series and he's the one that composed it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Damian has also composed outside of Serious Sam, mostly smaller titles like DS puzzle games and smaller PC games. His style of music when it came to Serious Sam is really what set him apart from other composers, opting to use mostly geographically accurate music with an emphasis on percussion. As a percussionist myself, I can really appreciate what goes into this music, though his style has evolved over the years, the two most obvious being the switch from PC to Xbox music. The Xbox versions sound more evolved and modern, which I like way more than the regular version. It gives this feeling of bringing the future to the past. The second one is a switch into a more orchestral feel in Serious Sam 4 and Siberian Mayhem. I'd best describe it as Avengers-like music, as weird as that sounds, but you really could put some of these tracks over an Avengers movie and it would fit right in. Xbox level splitting. The Xbox brought Serious Sam to a whole new audience of gamers. However, the Xbox didn't have the same storage space that the PC had, so levels would oftentimes have to be split into multiple sections or even acts. For instance, Karnak on the Xbox is split into two parts, one simply known as Karnak and the second known as the Ankh Pool. Crow Team's other games. Outside of the Serious Sam games, Crow Team is best known for their first-person puzzle game and now its sequel, The Talos Principle and The Talos Principle 2, both of which saw great success, but those are well known. Crow Team actually started off with creating soccer games for the MS-DOS, most notably Football Glory. Dune's Leitmotif. Dunes is Serious Sam's most popular track, and it has leitmotifs in every other mainline game. For those that don't know, leitmotifs are sections of recurring pieces in music that can be found throughout multiple pieces. For example, the song Devil Trigger from Devil May Cry 5 has a leitmotif in a later song, Silver Bullet. In Serious Sam's case, we can hear Dunes in the second encounter on PC in the Land of the Damned's drum pacing. On Xbox, we can hear it in the Inner Sanctum theme. In Serious Sam 2, we hear the pacing again in Greendale. In 3BFE, we have a straight-up remaster with boss fight strings. And in Serious Sam 4, we have the Cathedral Suite. In Siberian Mayhem, I couldn't find the Dunes leitmotif, but we did have a Grand Cathedral one in the opening theme. The indie series also has a few leitmotifs which I'll show off right now. And that covers the sky portion. So let's head down to the tip of the iceberg. Console Serious Sam games. Though Serious Sam is primarily a PC first series, it has console ports as well as console only games. For example, we have Serious Sam The Next Encounter for the PS2 and GameCube in 2005, Serious Sam Advance for the Game Boy Advance in 2005, and Serious Sam for the Palm OS in December of 2001. Yo, this game sounds like a freaking lobotomy. The Palm OS is a weird system. FrameRater did a really good video on it, so I'll drop that video in the tab on the top right corner over here if you're interested. Out of all these console exclusives, the only one that was semi-well received was The Next Encounter. It's also one of my favorites. Coming 2014. This entry comes from a Rock Paper Shotgun article from 2014 that states that after speaking with the Seriously fan site, Crow Team spoke up about their current state of work on Serious Sam 4 apparently being pretty far along, and that after being funded using the Humble Bundle, Serious Sam 4 would come out at the fourth quarter of 2014. Of course, in reality, we didn't hear anything about Serious Sam 4 until April of 2018 with the teaser trailer, and the game itself didn't even release until late 2020. Speaking of teaser trailer though, Serious Sam 4 teaser. Released in April of 2018, this teaser trailer shows a bulkier looking Sam riding through the French countryside on a motorcycle while the song Wildlife plays in the background, ending with Sam riding off into a huge swarm of aliens. Some things to take away from this trailer is that this specific location within the French countryside is made specifically for the trailer, so it doesn't show up in game. Also, the song Wildlife was originally used in 3BFE's opening cutscene. And at the end we can see that this was when the game was still called Serious Sam 4 Planet Badass. Oh, there's also fauna in the trailer, which we don't see any of in game. Judy Mental. Judy Mental is a character we only learn about in the ending cutscene of Serious Sam 3 BFE. She's presumed to be Mental's daughter since she refers to Mental as her father, which brings into question, who is bad enough to cop the cosmos' biggest menace? Or do the Humtai even need someone to reproduce? Maybe they're autogamic, but then again, there's no point in pointing yourself as someone's daughter if you don't have any gender. Yeah, I think this was done more for laughs. Crow Team DRM Protection. Upon the release of Serious Sam 3 BFE, Crow Team added an in-game anti-piracy measure in the form of this mini adult arachnoid which would follow the player around at very high speeds and shoot at them until they died, basically rendering the game completely unplayable. But then again, there are some complete maniacs out there that get a kick out of somehow still managing to beat the game while being chased by this bite-sized Deathbringer. Sam is mental theory. This theory comes from a Reddit post from a couple years back. It states that because Sam has these superhuman reflexes and endurance, that he may be a similar race to the Humta, or maybe he's even part of Mental himself, just playing both the hero and the villain for entertainment. Personally, I'd lean more towards the theory that Sam is maybe a Syrian-human hybrid. In Serious Sam 3, you find some tablets that prophesize a lot of the game's events, and they could definitely apply to Sam, as well as the fact that when Syrians came to Earth there would probably be inevitable intermingling, but that's just a theory. Box art mistakes. Let's pull out the old second encounter box art. If you look at it at a glance, you wouldn't really see anything wrong with it, but not according to the game's publisher, God Games, who had quite a few things to say. Sam's head is too big, and he looks too short. The Serious Bomb logo should have a red border instead of blue. The harpy looks too much like a cheerleader. Sam should hold the chainsaw instead of the minigun. Replace Gnars with Zumbles. The grass looks too flat. This statue should be more colorful. The words "the second encounter" should be more visible on the box art. Remove Seriously Warped Deathmatch on the top of the box. Replace the Highlander with a Fiendian Demon, and the Serious Sam logo should only have a red border. Under the notes section we have, "The sky is too washed out. Sam should have bigger biceps. Add more vegetation." Well, holy shit, I guess these guys just weren't happy with anything. I'll say, I for one am very happy with the box art. I love it. Serious Sam Backstory. The series lore has always taken a backseat to the gameplay, however, if you look for it, you'll find it in droves. Serious Sam is a game about Sam Sirius Stone, a captain in the EDF or Earth Defense Force. Originally tasked with helming the space exploration ship the Surveyor, Sam accidentally comes in contact with a probe that woke up an ancient evil known as Mental. Not too long after this, Mental's war on the universe begins again. Sam is repurposed as the captain of the battleship Saratoga and recruits as many aliens as he can to fight against Mental. But eventually Mental manages to reach Earth. Humanity decides to send Sam back in time through a device named the Time Lock, which is a relic from an ancient race of aliens which were on Earth called the Syrians. From here, Sam has to make his way over to Mental and destroy him to stop him from mooning the Earth in the most literal sense. Indie Series. Throughout the years, Serious Sam has lent out its title to indie developers to make games in between mainline games. This is currently what the indie series consists of. Serious Sam Double D and Double D XXL are side-scroller shooters. Serious Sam the Greek Encounter is a top-down web browser atrocity, but I can't help but like it. Serious Sam the Random Encounter is a turn-based shooter which I highly recommend trying. Serious Sam Kamikaze Attack is a mobile game now ported to Steam where you can play as a kamikaze chasing Sam. Serious Sam's Bogus Detour is a top-down bullet hell akin to Enter the Gungeon. I Hate Running Backwards is a game where you run backwards and fight Serious Sam enemies, either playing as Sam or other characters from Devolver Digital's lineup. And finally, Serious Sam Tormental is another top-down bullet hell shooter with some very interesting lore implications. Serious Sam 2 is non-canon. Serious Sam has 3 lineups of Serious Sam games: the Indie series, the Mainline series, and the spin-off series. On its release, Serious Sam 2 was fitted right after the second encounter in the Mainline series. However, after its poor reception, Croteam decided to move it into the spin-off category, leaving the canon story of Serious Sam on a cliffhanger at the end of Serious Sam the Second Encounter. Serious Sam reference in the Talos Principle. The Talos Principle is one of Croteam's IPs which saw great success, being a first-person puzzle game with a philosophic background. Of course, there's going to be a few references to Croteam's most popular IP. And I'm not talking about the fact that they have John J. Dick, the voice of Sam, to voice God.
Behold, child, you are risen. Nah, that's not really my style. Dance, monkey.
So far, we have this statue of Ignar, a secret radio that, when interacted with, will have Quinn quote one of her lines.
Sam, have you reached the Sphinx yet? We've translated one of the lines, but we still don't have a solution. It says the true riddle of the Sphinx has many questions, but only one answer.
A Serious Sam room, and this kamikaze Easter egg. By the way, in the Talos Principle 2, there's also a cardboard Serious Sam 2 cutout Easter egg. Serious Sam 4 Jones is Serious Sam 3 Jones's brother. The character Jones in Serious Sam 3 and 4 are actually 2 different characters. They're brothers. And the only line alluding to this comes from the mission The Four Horsemen after defeating the Knum.
He had a brother, you know. The guy you just killed. They'll have to call and tell him some damn alien killed Tom.
You could also kind of tell that they're different due to differing personalities. Jones in Serious Sam 4 is quiet, reserved, but ready to kick ass at any moment, and Jones in Serious Sam 3 sounds more like a brawn over brains type guy. Serious Sam 2000. Sam 2000 is better known as the alpha build for Serious Sam. It features scrapped Egypt levels, new planets, and consists of a first, second, and third encounter set in space. In total, there's 40 levels in the alpha build, as well as scrapped enemies and boss encounters. There's also early versions of enemies. Like this guy. Believe it or not, that's an early model for Ugzan 3. In-game, he's labeled as the Devil. To note off a few more details, the second encounter would comprise of Sam making his way through different planets, like an ice planet and a lava planet. And the third encounter, like I mentioned earlier, would be set in space. The alpha only has enemies up to the end of the second encounter, so once you go into the third encounter, you'll only have the level designed to keep you company. Speaking of the level design, the third encounter really put emphasis on gravity sections, with both gravity manipulation and these small watery sections that allow you to move in elevation. And just a little side note for the people that have no idea, this section in Siberian Mayhem is a reference to the end of the ice planet where Sam goes to Sirius. Cut Sam 2000 weapons. On the topic of Sam 2000, this game has quite a few scrap weapons or repurposed weapons. To name a few, we have the Lava Rocks gun, which was later repurposed and given to Ugzan 3 at the end of the first encounter. We have a pipe bomb, which is functionally identical to C4 in later installments. Oh, by the way, completely off topic, I just found this out while I was just recording Sam throwing C4 in Serious Sam 4. I was looking at the actual stick of C4, and that thing, it says on the bottom 003 inert, so that either means something on that stick of C4 is inert or the entire stick is meant to be inert. In other words, inert is like inoperable or non-functioning. It's not meant to function. If I like grab a C4 sized brick, just an actual brick, and I tape it up to look like C4, that's inert demolition. It's not meant to go off, so something on there is inert. And I don't mean inert as in like, oh, if I just grab a chunk of wood and I say it's inert. No, that's meant to be inert. If something disguised or meant to look like demolition and it does not function as demolition, that is inert. So something on there is inert. Anyway, let's get back on topic. There's the Ghostbuster, which is given to Ugzan 3, but is returned to us in Serious Sam Revolution, and now as well in Serious Sam 2. There's the Flamer, which we'd later get in the second encounter, renamed as the Flamethrower. There's also a secret setting on the knife weapon. If you press the equip button for the knife while you still have it equipped, Sam would hold it backwards. Attacking like this seems to have less range but do a lot more damage. There are still remnants of this in Atrixa where she tells you the knife is perfect for sneaky kills, which would be most likely done with the backwards knife. Sinking through sand. If you boot up the standalone HD version of the first encounter and hop into Hatshepsut's temple, you can walk all the way back, far past the small oasis, and eventually the sand will start looking a little weird and you'll fall through. But instead of dying, you'll end up teleporting into space, where the opening cutscene takes place. This is impossible in Fusion or the classic versions unless you find a way to clip through the ground. Oh, by the way, if you destroy this palm tree in this little oasis, a bunch of harpies will spawn. It's one of those secret triggers. Hatshepsut's hidden room. Right behind the left balcony, past the secret rockets, you'll find an open space with nothing. But if you shoot the floor in a specific spot with enough rockets, a secret room will appear. Hopping down will reveal nothing. Originally, Crow Team created this area to hold a secret. We don't know what secret exactly, but this area was again repurposed in Serious Sam Revolutions, where we again find, well, nothing. But hey, at least you get an achievement for it this time. Greener Marshhoppers. Marshhoppers are without a doubt the most annoying enemy in Serious Sam. They're like autistic dogs if you hop them up on Fen. But did you know that they're actually affected by their environment that they're placed in? On the surface, you'll just find regular dark green marshhoppers. However, in the sewers below Metropolis in the first encounter, you can actually find some sickly green marshhoppers. There's nothing different about their stats or parameters, they're just greener. 2 giant electrofish. The electrofish are scary enough as is, considering they look like an anglerfish had a baby with an out-of-water blobfish. And though they usually just come in one size, there are 2 instances where we can find giant ones. The first one is in the sewers below Metropolis. The second one is found in the middle of this frozen over lake during the hide-and-seek side mission. If you hop down this hole and swim down for a bit, a massive electrofish will jump at you and bite you. It doesn't really deal any damage, but it's a good jump scare. Forest of Hanging Gnar. In the mission Gates of Hell in Serious Sam 4, once you get the sniper rifle, aim up towards Mount Vesuvius and you'll find a small black dot that looks out of place. Upon closer inspection, it turns out to be a lone female Gnar. That's weird enough on its own, but when you shoot her, you'll be transported to an endless forest with Gnars strung up on trees. It's kind of an eerie sight, but before you can get a long good look at it, the game throws you back to where you were. Definitely creepy. And that concludes the tip of the iceberg section. So let's head down into the cold waters and find more obscurities. Crow Team's Doom pitch. Before the release of Doom 2016, id Software was looking for game developers to pitch a new Doom game. Crow Team threw their hat in the ring, and we can still see some of the leftovers in Serious Sam. The Scrapjack was Crow Team's take on the Mancubus, the Knoom was their take on the Baron of Hell, the Clone Soldier were zombie gunners, and Canned Cane was their take on the Doom Marine. We still have a few screenshots from this time showing off how this would have looked. The Talos Principle started as Serious Sam 4. Early in Serious Sam 4's development, the game took on a more puzzle-oriented focus. This was then deemed to be too un-Serious Sam-like and scrapped. But instead of scrapping it completely, they used this idea and made it into its own game, now known as the highly praised Talos Principle. Serious Sam 2 is a lucid dream. This theory comes from a Reddit user named Yanel, who proposed that Natrixa is untested technology and is slowly affecting Sam's brain. The evidence would be the gradual descent into insanity that we see through the series. Serious Sam 4 seems pretty normal, but then in Serious Sam 3 near the end we see Sam talking to a Gnar about mental mooning the planet, which I didn't know Sam spoke Gnar. Or maybe Natrixa is translating it for him, but then again Natrixa is the cause of the insanity in this theory, so we should rule her out. Throughout the first and second encounter, we see increasingly weird things like anti-gravity in ancient Egypt and snowmen with rocket launchers. If you look at Natrixa through all of this, she starts to develop a more wacky personality to keep up this facade of being normal, until it finally comes to a peak in Serious Sam 2. A pointless medallion, a giant gorilla, a massive bee, a gay dragon, the penguins of Madagascar, the interruption of a gay alien wedding. This all looks like one big hallucination to me. But luckily this game is no longer considered canon, but it's still a cool theory. Hero wasn't composed by Undercode. Serious Sam's current theme song and one of my personal favorites was in fact not composed by Undercode. It was composed by Damian Mravenak and performed by Undercode. The sequel Hero 2 was also composed by Damian but performed by Robin Fink from the band Nine Inch Nails as the featured artist. Seriously Site. Seriously used to be a fan-hosted website where you could keep up with everything Serious Sam as well as download mods and hang around with the community. Recently though, the website itself shut its doors and moved on to Discord due to rising costs of keeping the domain up. If you go to the website now, you get a page detailing all of this, and if you hop over to the archive, you'll see what's left of all the assets. Hopping over to the Discord server, it looks pretty normal. People can still share mods and other ideas here. It's a functional substitute for the website. Insanity 2. I don't really have too much to say on Insanity 2, but in short, it's a mod for Serious Sam 2 created by Parse Error, and it allows you to basically mod the game in whatever way you want. You've probably seen it before. Here's what it looks like. TEOR. TEOR was a realistic first-person shooter developed by Crow Team from 2006 to 2008, and it was supposed to be dual published by Atari and a company named Gamecock. In 2009, however, Atari pulled the plug on TEOR, leaving behind only a few screenshots in a Croatian game magazine. Supposedly, the game was to take place in modern-day Somalia, showing off a ruined Middle East. There was also a heavy emphasis on vehicles. A magazine article unveiled some Serious Engine 3 renders for some weapons that would be used in TEOR, such as an AK-47, Scar with an underbarrel, a grenade and an L-85. The vehicles shown here were Humvees, M1A1 Abrams, and the UH-60 Blackhawk. Despite being cancelled, this serves as a perfect example of what Serious Engine 3 was capable of. You can see a lot of the inspiration from TEOR in the early levels of 3BFE. The AK-47 model as seen in the magazine was also found in Serious Sam HD's game files, but it has no connection to the actual game. A model in Serious Sam 3's files named Gunner also has an animation named Idle Scar. Again, it holds no connection to TEOR, just a simple leftover. Dark Island. Before the release of Serious Sam Gold, Crow Team asked a modder whose name I couldn't find to create a fan-made level pack. This was done under a strict deadline though, leading to a less than desirable product. Dark Island starts with Sam in this marsh before going underground and resurfacing. Next we find ourselves in this open field with furry art and a choice to make. Two ships that go to two identical islands, Island Paradise or Dark Island. Neither choice really matters, it only makes small changes to enemy spawns in the end. Next you're in this lab and you fall through the floor before fighting a horde and escaping through a laundry machine of a room. Yeah, it's not that great. If you want me to go more in depth about it, I have a video on both Bright and Dark Island. Serious Sam created an Alan Ladovac's dream. The idea of Serious Sam itself didn't come from a dream, it came from Crow Team's love for old first-person shooters. Since shooters at the time would put you in a lot of smaller spaces with more intelligent enemies, Crow Team decided to go back to the roots and give you a large open space to fight hordes of enemies. The name Serious Sam itself actually started as Flesh and then In the Flesh. I'll go deeper into it later in the iceberg, but they finally changed their name to Serious Sam to make the title reflect the product more, just like Duke Nukem. Future Sam and Kenny timeline. At the start of the mission, From Earth with Love, we can see Sam get some help from a future version of himself from another timeline. In our Sam's timeline, Kenny died right outside of Carcassonne to Ackerman, but we can hear him in the background during this cutscene talking about some powered up pyramid. This is a reference to the Great Pyramid, but this begs a few questions. Is this future Sam's Kenny, or is it a random Kenny he plucked from somebody else's timeline? During the ending scene of Serious Sam 4 and Siberian Mayhem, we can see future Sam casually taking people out of their own timelines to undertake missions for him. Maybe in that Kenny's timeline there is no Serious Sam, or maybe Sam is, spoiler alert, dead just like in Tormental. Don't worry, I'll get to that one later. So instead, Kenny has to take his place and undertake these missions. Did Sam or somebody else die in Kenny's place right outside of Carcassonne, or maybe together they're helping other versions of Sam that need some extra help stopping Mental? The whole multiverse thing really jumbled a whole lot of things up, and thinking about it more makes my smooth brain hurt, so let's move on. Seriously Warped Deathmatch. Seriously Warped Deathmatch is a mod for the second encounter that adds a bunch of deathmatch and other PvP maps. It used to be very popular, and it even includes two cut weapons, the mine layer and the plasma gun. A lot of these maps have really cool gimmicks and secrets to them, but going on there now will just leave you kinda depressed. In the Flesh. In the Flesh was one of the first names for Serious Sam. The game looked a lot different back then, honestly looking a lot more gothic in nature. There's a few screenshots here and there, but other than that, it's completely lost. We do know the game was meant to have a clear HUD and the same models we'd see in the alpha build for Serious Sam. I'd be curious to see what kind of game this would have ended up being. Serious Sam HD marketing. Serious Sam HD had a very weird time with its marketing. Most trailers showed Xbox ports of weapons with a gray digital clock HUD, or an admittedly cool green vector HUD with finished Xbox ports of weapons. The trails on rockets are more vibrant, and the sand in dunes is a lot whiter. The grenade launcher still used Serious Sam 2's beep noise, which is superior by the way. Sam's hurt sound effects were also from Serious Sam 2. The Biomech Major has rockets visibly in its launcher, and some enemies hadn't reached their final design yet. Jibs exploded forward towards you instead of away from you. They also made trailers for the game like the infamous infomercial.
Take it from me, I'm a hardcore gamer and I can access to the polygon count in this title that is full of visual splendor.
This shit was like 15 years ago, bro. Damn. Oh, and there's the House of Sam infomercial. I used to love this shit as a kid, man. Moving up towards the release and even a little bit after, we got some screenshots from Crow Team which showed off some really weird things. Mostly enemies that hadn't gotten up to their final design yet. Tormental Sam is dead, and lore. Spoiler alert for Serious Sam Tormental. Tormental is a top-down bullet hell shooter where you play as Sam. You're tasked with finding one of Mental's artifacts that could weaken him. You find it, but in the process you get your soul sucked into Mental's mind. So now you need to fight your way through Mental's frontal lobe so you can fight a part of the man himself in order to escape. Once you do that though, Mental reveals that you can't escape. You're stuck here forever. Your lifeless body still sitting on that cold dungeon floor where you left it, waiting for the moon to strike the planet, destroying it. There are a few hints that point towards this, like how if you look into the outer void, you can sometimes see multiple dead versions of Sam, and Mental just keeps reviving you every time you die. Mental does let a few interesting things slip though. He talks about other versions of Sam, which would mean that Mental is omniscient and there's only probably one of him. No other versions in any other timeline since he stretches across all of them. Sam ends up accepting his fate, saying he'll do his best to fight Mental from here, while the other Sam that'll end up hopefully beating Mental goes on. Mental also lets slip that the reason that he does this isn't because he's necessarily angry at the universe, but because he's scared of being alone. And this fear is redirected into hatred. He even considers letting himself feel something other than fear or hatred for a little bit before Sam just tells him not to overthink it and that they should continue with what they love to do best. Duke it out until the chosen Sam beats Mental, or vice versa. In the end, they don't seem to part ways in a bad manner, they part with a deeper understanding of each other. And in theory, the addition of acknowledging other versions of Sam's makes this a harmless addition to the main line instead of a spin-off. After we established alternate timelines in Serious Sam 4, who's to say what isn't canon? But what if in the end, hear me out, we had every version of Sam square up against Mental, Avengers style? But as of now, this is a spin-off, so we'll just have to wait and see. Mighty Gizmo. Mighty Gizmo is the schnoz of Serious Sam. You might not think it, but he's secretly the strongest being in the Serious verse. Gizmo created the Serious verse, meaning existence itself. Gizmo could beat Mental easy. Gizmo could beat Goku, no diff. Gizmo built the 7 wonders of the world, then got bored and accidentally sneezed and destroyed 6 of them. Gizmo can crack the indestructible Nokia phone by simply looking at it. Gizmo can talk to women without fear. But on a real note, Gizmo is a secret joke boss fight if you do the second round secret in the Tower of Babel in the second encounter. He has the same amount of HP as a regular Marshhopper, except he'll explode into a bunch of mini Marshhoppers upon death. And that covers the shallow waters of the iceberg. Let's head down a bit deeper to the Twilight Zone. No, really, that's what that depth will be called. Look, I'm being serious. Most popular Serious Sam video. This one's pretty simple to look up. The most popular Serious Sam video by views is Gnome 2000's Serious Sam 3 BFE, Serious Sam HD Enemy Resource Pack with 72 million views. Rich Knuckles. Rich Knuckles is a character created by Devolver Digital that works at the Serious Sam helpline, where he helps players through issues they're having in Serious Sam and answers any questions they may have. This mini-series of skits is still on YouTube and they're pretty funny. I'll link the videos in the description below, as well as putting it on the card in the top right now. Serious Sam 3 Beta. There's not a lot of public information about the Serious Sam 3 Beta, but there's a lot we can glean from looking at the earliest trailer footage regarding enemies and weapon models. Starting with the weapons, the Deagle had a real unfinished look to it. It looked too dark and jagged. The single shotgun looks more like the 3BFE devolved shotgun, and the flashlight attachment on the assault rifle changed rail positions a few times. First starting on the sides of the rifle and then finally ending up on the bottom. We don't even really use it, Sam just has his own flashlight on his hip that he uses. The minigun had a different FOV, the rockets on the rocket launcher used to be completely silver with very few markings. Moving on to the enemies, the female Gnar had a very silvery look to it, kinda reminds me of a wet frog. The adult Antarean spiders also have this silvery gloss to them. The early models for the hatchling had the same colors as the adults, just smaller. The reticle also doesn't light up in any color to indicate the enemy's health. The clothes on the clone soldier look a lot more like yellowish desert camis as opposed to the urban DD Pat we ended up with in the final game. I like the yellow a lot more, it helps them stick out while still keeping a somewhat realistic setting since we're in the desert. I think the darkness would have been a lot more impactful in the beta's tombs, it's a lot harder to see than in the final product. And finally, the Witch Bride looks, well, rough. In some other trailers, we can hear the sound that the Scrapjack initially made was actually taken from the T-Mech from Serious Sam 2. There were also some more detailed drawing and stowing animations for our weapons. This unholstering animation for the pistol looks pretty good. I feel like the coloring on the rocket launcher is also a little bit lighter than in the final game. The double barrel shotgun has some less detail to it, and it's pretty hard to see since it flashes by so quick. Finally, we see these mental banners that look really cool, but we never got in the final version. That's all I could find. Sam's relatives. Though we don't know much about Sam's parents, there's a good chance that since his middle name is Herbert, that one of his family members is named Herbert. Middle names don't necessarily have to be from people you're related to, but it's pretty common. He also has 2 siblings that we know of, Serious Sammy and Mental Mate. These of course are, like Serious Sam, aliases. They all share the last name Stone, so we have a Herbert Stone somewhere higher in the family tree than Sam, Sammy, and Mate Stone. In the next encounter, he also has multiple wives. Not all of them human supposedly, but they all have one thing in common, that it was a shame whatever happened to them.
And I thought Caesar's palace was in Vegas. I met my first wife in Vegas. It's a shame what happened to her.
Other Serious Engine 1 games. After finishing up the second encounter, Crow Team allowed other companies to use their engine to make games. I'm not sure if this is all of them since the list is so small, but we have in order of release, Carnivore City Escape in 2002, Nitro Family in mid-2004, and Black Alpha Zero in late 2004, all first-person shooters. FrameRater did a really good video on Nitro Family, I'll leave that in the card above. Fork Parker. Fork Parker is Devolver Digital's fictional CFO. He appeared in a few Serious Sam games as a cameo or a playable character in multiplayer. He also has my awesome Serious Sam 3 video, which just shows his digital head talking about how cool Serious Sam 3 BFE is. Oh, and there's this.
I used to go to the bathroom 3 or 4 times a night, but now I go a lot more. Terry, Leon, you want a hot dog?
I think I'll pass on this one, Fork. Planet Badass title removal. Somewhere between the Serious Sam 4 teaser and the final trailer, you'll see the name change from Serious Sam 4 Planet Badass to simply Serious Sam 4. This is a change simply done because Serious Sam 4 rolls off the tongue better than Planet Badass will. Though looking back on it, I kinda like the name. BFE meaning. Despite putting it in their own title, Crow Team has never told us what BFE stands for. The widely accepted meaning from the community is that BFE stands for Before First Encounter, since, well, that's when the game takes place. However, the term BFE already existed before this. It's American slang for But Egypt. It's another way of saying that you're in the middle of nowhere. And it kinda makes sense since we're, well, literally in the middle of Egypt. Though Before First Encounter is more likely. Only a real schmung guy like myself know that it means bovine fecal extraction. Serious Sam 2 Prototype. Like 3 BFE, Sam 2 doesn't have a lot of information on earlier builds of the game. Luckily, we have absolute legends in the community like Serious Zone who somehow managed to find prototype and alpha cutscenes for us to enjoy. And I mean enjoy, these things are hilarious. A lot of these are unfinished or have no audio and also use Sam's Xbox model. I'll leave a link in the description and I'll put it in the card above. It's a 30-minute video of complete jank and I love it. Some quick highlights are Cecil who looks like Cerberus with wings, Prince Chan's death scene, and Ignar being fed up with Sam and quitting the studio permanently. Serious Sam HD, The Next Encounter. Serious Sam HD The Next Encounter is a fan remake of The Next Encounter brought to PC within Serious Sam The Second Encounter HD. It supports higher graphics and updated models for the T&E weapons. More recently, this also came out for Serious Sam Revolutions, however, porting these things over didn't happen without a few issues. For instance, HD and Revolutions don't have the Next Encounter combo system, which is core to what made that game so fun, along with not having models for some of the enemies like the Dum-Dums and most of the boss fights, so they're just replaced with more familiar bosses. But there's a simple fix to this. Just play the original on a Dolphin emulator. Just download Dolphin, select the GameCube emulator, and download T&E. It's freeware now, by the way, and then either just Finnick with the Dolphin emulator to get it to work with mouse and keyboard, or play as intended with a controller. As long as you don't play the PS2 version, that shit looks horrible. Timelock Studios. Founded by a bunch of Serious Sam modders in 2021, Timelock Studios made a name for themselves by being the main force behind Serious Sam Siberian Mayhem, which is often regarded with nothing but praise. Nowadays, they're part of Crow Team and will be looking to helm more future Serious Sam projects, though their social media has been pretty silent for the last few years. And that covers everything on this level of the iceberg. On to the next. We go down to the deeper depths. Crow Team helped form Devolver Digital. When looking up Devolver Digital, you can see their company was founded back in 2009, and first up on their list of games all the way from 2009 to 2011, we have Serious Sam HD, the first encounter, Serious Sam HD, the second encounter, some Serious Sam indie games, and Serious Sam 3 BFE. So, in a way, yes, Crow Team did aid in forming Devolver Digital by funding them using their games. Serious Sam 4 Refinery, cut level. You'll have to forgive me for the video quality. This video playthrough is the only way to find out anything about this cut level. The refinery was a cut level set as Chapter 14, which would technically replace the package, but that's not chronologically possible. In the beginning of the refinery, we see the snowmobile we get from Future Sam in Chapter 15 from Earth with Love. So that means, in order, Sam jumps out of Brand's aircraft and lands on the oil rig in the package, then uses a boat to escape, lands in Tunguska, gets the snowmobile from Future Sam, heads to the refinery, and finally ends up in Tunguska proper in From Earth with Love. The mission description coincides with this, letting us know that we've run out of fuel for our snowmobile, and we're here to find some before heading over to Tunguska proper. In addition to that, the refinery was supposed to be home to 3 additional side missions. The first one is a simple destroy the drone facility mission, which will reward you with some drones of your own. More interestingly is the second one called Don't Squat the Chainsaw. It sees Sam looking for his rocket chainsaw launcher at the refinery after finding this letter.
Hey, Ivan, you can't believe what we just found. Last night, some cargo plane from the west passed above the refinery. People on board must have been drunk, because we saw someone jumping out of the plane with a parachute above the freezing water. The best thing, however, following that, a bunch of supply crates fell out too. Now get this, in one of them, I shit you not, was one of those ETF rocket launchers. But, get this, it shoots chainsaws instead. I don't know who made it, but I swear to my babushka, it is true Russian weapon. Anatoly just can't stop hugging it. He's either in love, or must be the 3 bottles of vodka. Probably both. Speaking of Anatoly, we are almost out of vodka. Bring some. We are at the pier. Let's have a party with this freaking chainsaw launcher. Vadim.
In the end, we find Anatoly along with the chainsaw launcher. It also looks like Anatoly has a chainsaw rammed up his ass. The third one is called Sam Squared, which is activated about halfway throughout the level when Sam is called by Professor Kiesel about an anomaly. Sam goes to look for it but is stopped by a locked gate before Quinn gives him the code, which is when the mission changes to find the dig site. There's also this letter we can find.
Assessment of Syrian artifacts found at dig site number 36, located at defunct refinery. Standard Syrian starship fuel located at Site Alpha under the bunker. Note: the usual starship juice every Syrian site seems to have. They really wanted us to find these, huh? Weird glowy crystal, still at dig site. Note: survey team says it is emanating some sort of radiation, but shouldn't be harmful for humans. I'm not sure. That Professor Stein definitely wanted it, but I refused. Who knows, the radiation might make him even more crazy. Waiting for the AAA team to take it. Do not touch until then. Proto-Slavic manuscript, sent to General Howard Brand. Note: Andre from survey team says it was written by some secretive group called the Arkal Magi that were connected to the Syrians. Seems hokey to me, but General Howard Brand from the AAA team was really interested in it.
So we head over to dig site 36, which is where we find this weird crystal. Next to it is a note and we find out who's responsible for the anomaly. Hey Sam, it's me, Sam from the future. I kind of forgot to give you some stuff that you're probably missing right now. I know how it is trying to go around killing aliens left and right, and then your favorite gadget fell out of your pocket like 5 knooms ago. Anyway, put the cool stuff at the end of some yard filled with enemies, just as you like it. You know what to do. After we grab the crystal, our mission changes one last time to go back to future you. Though by following the quest marker, you just end up in an empty area where the quest will mark itself completed. I'm sure there was an interesting cutscene that would have played out between present and future Sam, though sadly we have nothing on that. Though we still have a few more things to cover. For instance, we have these new voice lines.
I'm sending some of my men to retrieve the manuscript. I know an expert in Moscow who may be able to translate the Proto-Slavic. Keep digging, and remember, this entire operation is classified.
Would you look at that? Another one of those drone-y places. Maybe I should go have a look. Maybe break something.
Guten Abend. much like a rogue planet traveling through a solar system and affecting trajectories. Or rather, in our case, events.
That's fascinating. Why were you calling?
A structure in your vicinity is showing an unusual tachyon signature. I would like you to investigate it.
I need the access code.
314-1592.
Easy as pie. Cold, 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 cold. First time I'd like to be at the wrong end of a flamethrower.
The refinery also still uses music from the package. We also have some more Dimitri logs.
I would like to register complaint regarding security situation at mainland refinery. I was not asked for identification upon arrival, as all security personnel are deceased. Also, scattered body parts are in violation of Health Code Paragraph 5. I would like to register complaint regarding lack of Earth Defense Force presence at refinery, neglecting strategic importance of continued resource extraction during war. I have decided to personally address situation by joining EDF and petitioning for creation of committee to rectify issue.
Apparently there was another Radio Free Earth broadcast, but the player here just shuts it off. It's more than likely that it's just a rerun of what we heard in the package. The rest of the refinery is just like any other Serious Sam level, though interestingly enough, we don't find any fuel for our snowmobile. We just kind of walk into this nuclear silo looking door and the level ends. The refinery was scrapped around 2020 due to using too many assets and there not being enough time to finish it up, which kind of puts the development history into perspective a bit. I'm guessing the refinery was meant to be finished by the original date of August, but wasn't, so I'm guessing that From Earth with Love wasn't finished yet either. So they scrapped the refinery and moved the release date back to September 2020 to focus more on finalizing From Earth with Love. But that's just my theory. Crow Team struggles with publisher. During the creation of Serious Sam: The First Encounter, Crow Team needed to find a game publisher to support the game. And after reaching out over a large period to multiple publishers, not one responded or was even interested in Serious Sam. Until one finally did respond. Gathering of Developers, then better known as God Games, picked up the IP and helped Crow Team release Serious Sam. Without them, we wouldn't have this great series. Kravice isn't a real location. Kravice is a location you land in during the second encounter level, the Citadel. In lore, it's meant to be this hidden settlement in Poland built around the 11th or 12th century for the Arch-el-Magi, a group of sorcerers, descendants from the original Egyptians that were contacted by the Syrians. Though most of Serious Sam's locations are real, Kravice isn't. The name Kravice when translated into English is Bloodwits, which doesn't really mean anything too much for us, but it's interesting to note that there is this kind of a blood theme when it comes to the Arch-el-Magi, because the real name for the Grand Cathedral is the Church of Sacred Blood. So I'm guessing these guys had a little edgy blood thing going on. Serious Sam 3 teaser mock-up with Serious Sam 2 assets. This might be a familiar image to some of you. After the release of Serious Sam 2, I know I was curious about the next installment, so I'd Google Serious Sam 3 and this image would show up. It's a mock-up. Grainy yet still hyper-realistic in some sense. I can't really put my finger on it since it's not quite in the uncanny valley, but it's still freaky to see these assets in a hyper-realistic setting. I'm not sure if Crow Team themselves made this or a fan did, but whoever did it, props to you, it's one hell of a piece. Why not and test one Natrixa? So to summarize it really quick, Why Not is the original name for Natrixa that comes from the SAM 2000 design document given by Crow Team. And the public test 1 Natrixa refers to this image of Karnak where we can see the Karnak spiral. However, in game, there is no spiral, so there are a few changes between Natrixa and what is actually out there. Zeb89. Zeb89 is an Italian YouTuber pretty well known around the Serious Sam community. He's an absolute menace in TSC multiplayer and assisted in the testing of Serious Sam 3. He's also on one of the wanted posters in the first level of 3BFE, Summer in Cairo. Also, Zeb, if you're watching this, nice Serious Sam rap, dude. You officially classify among the few that Eminem is scared to go after. I'm not going to play it here, but I'll link the video in the description because holy shit, it's amazing. It's so good. Pakina. Pakina is a location that was cut during the development of Serious Sam 2. It was a planet that was supposed to be between Kroner and Sirius. Based on the models and textures for it, it would have been a gigantic military base on a desert planet. It's unknown what enemies would have been on this planet or what the boss of this planet was supposed to be, though we know that it was at least 3 levels long, as a folder with 03, the number representing levels, can be found in Pakina's model folder. The evidence for Pakina's existence can also be found in the game files, where there is a folder named 07 Pakina in the textures/levels and models/levels folders. Pakina was removed from the final game, but its models and general look was repurposed into the first part of Kroner. Most of the models from the first part of Kroner are found in the Pakina folder itself, providing the link between the first part of Kroner and Pakina. The desert theme was removed, but the buildings and general military base design was turned into what we now know as the Kroner levels. Xbox phone booths used for saving. Unlike the PC version, the console versions of Serious Sam didn't have that sweet quick save button to save them. Instead, they had these lives counters later used in Serious Sam 2 to be used as quick saves, and these red phone booths as regular save game points. PC also had phone booths, but they're just meant for gags and secrets instead of serving any real purpose. Kamikaze Scream Origin. The origin of the Kamikaze Scream has been a long-standing mystery in the Serious Sam community, and after a grueling 5 minutes of intense searching, I've concluded that we'll never know. I even searched page 2 of Google. You can't expect anyone to go further than that for that matter. One theory is that the Scream is Alan Ladovac's, but there is no confirmation on that. Another way to look at this mystery is by looking at the other aliens. The clear sound was taken from Michael Jackson's Thriller, so it's a chance that it comes from a song. Or maybe it's not even human, but rather some kind of sound or music system. Or most likely, it's just some random Crow Team employee. We'll never know. Serious Sam 4 and 3 uses sounds from Serious Sam the First Encounter and Serious Sam 2. It may be that I've never really paid attention to this, but Serious Sam 4 uses some sounds from the First Encounter. For instance, the Biomech walking sound is just pitch shifted a bit lower, and the harpies make the Serious Sam 2 harpy sound. Old Man Murray. Old Man Murray is a video game review website. They covered Serious Sam the First Encounter's public test, which gave them some much needed attention. They had this funny way of rating games via how long before you could find a crate. This then became the crate gag that we see throughout the classic games. If you look at the front of this vehicle that the big heads are riding in the Sacred Yards, you can actually find the Old Man Murray logo, right before revealing this massive crate pyramid.
Look at that moron! He really pressed the button!
Serious Sam 3 Tablets. Unless you're an achievement hunter, you likely skimmed over the tablets in Serious Sam 3. They actually reveal a very interesting story behind the arrival of the Syrians, a prophecy, and the usage of the arrow, better known as the Syrian bracelet. To put it in simple terms, the tablets talk about the Egyptians' perspective on the Syrians' arrival, thinking them to be the gods Ra, Horus, Iris, Anubis, and a few others. These gods then appointed the Egyptians to create tabernacles as a final resting place, which we see in the Great Pyramid in Serious Sam 3. In return, the Egyptians were given the power of the arrow to be used by the pharaohs. The first ones to use it were pharaohs Khafre and Khufu, who ordered the construction of the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids of Giza, though the Jewel of the Nile suggests that it was used by another pharaoh after Khufu and Khafre, Amun-Ra-Kepshef, about 1,000 years later. Somehow after that, the arrow found its way back to the tabernacle in Giza. Before the last of the Syrians died out, a prophecy was foretold. Someone with the power of Ra was to wield the arrow, and that the One Infinite was to come down and destroy everything. But there was hope, because the Syrians would send out their starship, the SSS Enterprise, and hide it among the stars, waiting for someone with the power of Ra to return it. Obviously, the One Infinite is mental. The interesting part is the prophecy calls the next person to wield the arrow as having the power of Ra. Some people actually interpret this as Sam having some ancient Syrian ancestry, which is a semi-viable theory, but that's a whole can of worms that deserves its own video in the future. With that, another section of the iceberg is done, and we move on to the bottom of the iceberg. Natrixa personality change. Natrixa has some odd personality changes between games. Starting in Serious Sam 4 and 3, she's a standard combat situation analyzer. In fact, in Serious Sam 4, Natrixa has an editor that manually updates the software. In Serious Sam 3, she's still a standard analyzer, however, during the mission Last Man on Earth, where we're left as the last person on Earth, Natrixa updates her own directives as head for the time lock. It may also have been Sam doing it, and since we don't really know how Nettie works when it comes to directives, she could have updated that directive from Sam's mind, or maybe from his words when he says he's headed for the time lock. After Sam jumps into the time lock, Natrixa remains more or less standard, however, she starts making more observations on her own and starts suggesting things and sometimes cracking jokes. In the second encounter, this happens with increasing frequency. She also starts referencing pop culture and a few references here and there that start indicating that Natrixa has a more feminine personality, though it may be a customizable option within Nettie's programming that users can edit. Finally, in Serious Sam 2, she has a full-blown personality apart from Sam with her own opinions, almost working like Cortana from Halo. Through some dialogue, we're not only told that she can see things that Sam sees, but also smell things he can't, which I guess makes sense since when it comes to combat situation analysis, smell is a pretty important subject. We'll go deeper into this further down the iceberg. Serious Sam 3 History Switch. The arrow or Syrian bracelet was originally not meant to be a weapon, rather a time travel device named the History Switch. We can see this original concept from concept art. YouTuber Serious Zone has a video where he restored and recreated the History Switch mechanic in the Karnak Temple. The switch would have likely been used to grab items from the past and bring them back to the future, most likely for puzzles or traversal. It would have been pretty cool to use the switch to revisit first encounter areas like Luxor or Karnak. Mission Pack idea. The Serious Sam mission pack refers to the second encounter originally being a mission pack for the first encounter. In other words, second encounter was DLC. In its early design document, the idea was for Sam to travel to different places in time to grab artifacts like the Holy Grail to power up the time lock, then starting the first encounter. Solace. Solace is a modder turned Crow Team employee since 2015 until his contract expired. For the longest time these past few years, he's been the direct link between Crow Team and the community, providing us with much information about Serious Sam 4 and past projects, such as virtually everything known about the Serious Sam 2 Reddit leak, which we'll get to later on in this iceberg. Assisting in the creation and modding of some memorable Serious Sam content, he also sometimes comments on this channel. Hi Solace, love you. Serious Sam Fusion Big Plans. The announcement of Serious Sam Fusion was a pleasant surprise for me when it came out. All of my favorite Serious Sam games in one application. Except that's not what it turned out to be. The original plan was to have all the Serious Sam games on Fusion, however Fusion wasn't able to properly import Serious Sam 2, 4, and Siberian Mayhem into itself, leading to only having the first and second encounter HD, 3BFE, Legend of the Beast, and Jewel of the Nile. Maybe one day there will be a Fusion for the new games. D-6.gro. Do not research. I have been wanting to cover this for so long, and now I finally can. D-6.gro, otherwise known as Dysthymia 6, is a Serious Sam creepypasta. D-6 is a disturbing and real downloadable mod for Serious Sam the Second Encounter Classic. By the way, dysthymia means a long-lasting depression. The mod starts you off in these caves and long hallways, and every single time you finish an area, these strange symbols flash before your eyes. It's quiet. Too quiet. And it's been hours since you've done anything but walk, until you get to a new hallway, but this one is different. Those symbols are carved into the walls. Now you get to a more open area where you see a Gnar, except his teeth and eyeballs are missing. In front of us there's an unexplored path. We walk down it only to find Larry. No, it's this guy known as the Waster, which is fitting because he wasted like 2 hours of my time watching a playthrough of Dysthymia. Oh, and these symbols mean nothing. They're not like runes or anything, it's just nothing. It's a weak Ben Drowned-esque creepypasta. You guys can play it for yourselves if you can find it, however I've been warned that it could be hiding a virus, so do it at your own risk. I could go deeper into it if you guys want. I can give it its own video, just let me know. Serious Sam 4 Pre-Alpha. The pre-alpha for Serious Sam 4 is the footage that you saw at the See You at E3 teaser trailer. Fans asked for the B-roll to be uploaded, but instead Crow Team live streamed it using Discord, which If you know, Discord isn't the best live streaming application, so the footage is complete garbage. The alpha shows off the Breakfast in France level. We see the early enemies, pistol, shotgun, assault rifle, and sniper rifle models, as well as some early motorcycle driving. The sound effects for the weapons are the ones from Serious Sam 3 except for the new sniper rifle, which also looks more like a hunting rifle. More interestingly though are these missing levels that we can see here. Between the Colosseum and the Vatican we have a level known as the Hospital, and before Breakfast in France we see a level called the Zoo. And finally, and most interesting, before the Citadel we have the Mental Labs. I don't know about you, but I want to find out more about the hospital and mental labs. I feel like there must have been like a side mission in the zoo level where you have to save a kid from a gorilla exhibit. Except of course, there are no gorillas but gnars. The pre-alpha ends with the Harvester section with hundreds of enemies rolling in over a hill right before you start the mayhem. Serious Sam 3 and Serious Sam 4 is parallel to Serious Sam the first encounter and Serious Sam the second encounter. Very simple, Serious Sam 3 and the first encounter both take place in Egypt, and Serious Sam 4 and the second encounter both take place in different countries. I have a good comparison here. Here's the second encounter map, and yeah, they're parallel. And in both Serious Sam 4 and the second encounter, you're after the Holy Grail. Save the Earth. Save the Earth was a Crow Team developed game that was used in a Croatian game show. It's completely lost to time with no other info. Serious Sam 3 cut voice lines. In Summer in Cairo, there's a cut voice line from Jones. Normally he's cut off like this.
Stone, come in. Where are you? Rodriguez, I told you, I'll be there in a minute. It's Jones. Rodriguez took... Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh, shit.
You can kinda hear this dialogue is cut in an editor. The original line goes as, Rodriguez took one in the chest before he gets killed by that kamikaze. And that ends the bottom of the iceberg. Let's dive deeper into the void. Dates in The Last Hope Tommy Gun. If you unlock the Tommy Gun in Serious Sam The Last Hope, you can see these patents on the side of the weapon. These dates correlate to major Serious Sam releases. Just a nice little nod. Serious Sam 4 April Fools. On April 1st, 2016, Crow Team released a post on their website saying that Serious Sam 4 was cancelled and Serious Sam 5 was now in the works. They showed off these images of Serious Sam 3 saying that they were the first images of Serious Sam 5. Crow Team moves on Unreal Engine. Before the release of the Talos Principle 2, the fanbase was informed that, unlike the last game, the Talos Principle 2 would not be running on Serious Engine, rather moving to Unreal Engine, which I might say is a massive improvement graphically. The Serious Engine has always been a bit outdated solely because it was Crow Team's in-house engine, and they don't simply have the budget to compete with anything like Unreal. I've taken a few glances at the Serious Engine editor to do some level editing, and holy crap, it's like looking at a tapestry from the wrong side. Serious Sam 2 2021 updates and Nathan Brown. In 2021, Serious Sam 2 got a surprise update courtesy of Nathan Brown, adding a whole bunch of things like sprinting, multi-weapon dual wielding, and a whole bunch of mutators. Honestly, dual wielding in Serious Sam 2 felt like it should have been in the game to begin with. Wink wink nod nod. It's been quiet though ever since, but it was a nice update nonetheless. Nathan is a freelancer contracted by Crow Team to make this update, and from an entire community, thank you Nathan. Wrong Tommy Gun model for Serious Sam 4 Deluxe Edition. When I bought the Deluxe Edition of Serious Sam 4 before launch, I was expecting the classic Tommy Gun. And though it would have been absolutely amazing to have that Tommy Gun with classic textures, I would have also accepted a remake of the HD model. But instead we got a regular stock asset looking Tommy Gun from The Last Hope. Cape, Bermuda Triangle. Cape was going to be Crow Team's next project after Serious Sam 4. They released some concept art on their subreddit, but it's been long removed by now. The game was meant to be a multiplayer-focused survival game set on an island peninsula in the Bermuda Triangle. I'm guessing, imagine the forest, but in the Bermuda Triangle. Serious Sam 4 uses stock Unity assets. Rocks. Those are the stock assets. Crow Team used Unity stock rock assets. And probably a couple of other things. Burn them down! Clear Blue Sky. This refers to the fact that 3BFE's 5th level under the Iron Cloud had absolute jack shit for a skybox. It's, well, a clear blue sky. Nothing. Apparently people were pretty annoyed at this, so Crow Team fixed this issue in Fusion. Wow, this section was kinda short. Nevertheless, let's continue even deeper down into the abyss. Crow Team's new IP hints. As of now, there are no new hints directing us to a new IP. First, we had the aforementioned Cape Bermuda Triangle, then we got Siberian Mayhem, then we got the Talos Principle 2. And from there, Crow Team has been silent about new IPs, though I feel like they're probably going to go back to making indie games between main entries again. Maybe an indie puzzle game for the Talos Principle and another indie shooter for Serious Sam. Oh, and there was also that remaster of the first Talos Principle. Serious Sam 2 Remastered Reddit leak.
Okay, so this one is like a lot, and I mean like a lot, so go ahead, take it slow.
Back in 2017, a folder got leaked containing the contents pertaining to a Serious Sam 2 remaster. I'll go through each piece and talk about them separately. First, we see Sam on the map, the Silent Riddler, in an updated Serious Sam 2 rollerball. Something interesting to note is that the HUD shows slots for grenade launcher, flamethrower, and serious bomb ammo, as well as 2 different types of shotgun shells. The next image shows off an upgrade system using the Colt as an example. It looks like you would have been able to customize it, since we can see the Colt using only upgrades 1 and 3 or only 2 and 3. Apparently the Colt wasn't perfectly accurate either, which is interesting. This next image shows off a place called the Selin Cave. We'll see in a minute what Selin is supposed to be. There's some unknown plant life and a bunch of stalagmites here. Looks like a cool idea for a level. This next image doesn't have a decipherable name, but it looks to be a jungle level, similar to the start of Serious Sam 2. Maybe it's a remade version of the walkway that leads to your first puzzle. The next image shows us the life cycle of a Gnar. Apparently the Serious Sam 3 Gnar is a genetic mutation. You can pause on this image if you'd like to read more, but I'm moving on to this next image where we can see a close-up of this Gnar larvae. It's meant to be able to float and probably attack with its mandibles. I feel like it might have been a mix between the Lost Souls from Doom and the head crabs from Half-Life. Next we have this demonstration of the heads-up display. If this looks familiar, it's because it's the eastern cliffside from the jungle in Serious Sam 2. In my opinion, this HUD resembles something from Borderlands more than it would Serious Sam. Now we can get a clear view of the jungle. To the right we see an altar where you can sacrifice that chicken in Serious Sam 2. Same to the left, we can see some bombers flying in the back and the waterfall with the secret cave behind it. More interestingly, there's no natives and no huts, it's just jungle. The next image shows a test chamber using some of the Ursel building models. On the top left we can see that this area is meant to be called Cliff Temple. No idea where that's at, nothing more unusual to see here. Next up is a video showing the ability for Clear to Wall Run. This already kinda happened in 3BFE, but not at this speed. The real question is, would the player have been able to reach these places with maybe a jetpack or serious jump? And would the Clear really be able to follow them, or would this have just been used for dramatic effect like in 3BFE? This next image shows us the concept art for mental propaganda drones. We eventually got a version of this in Serious Sam 4, but to be honest, I think I would have liked this version more with the different screens. The next 2 images show off the Serious Sam 3 warship and the newly made propaganda drone, but we can also see designs for a new mental affiliated spacecraft. Early models of course, but interesting nonetheless. On the bottom right we can see talks about adding these color palettes and symbology to architecture to let player know that this is mental affiliated, kinda like the banners we see in the Serious Sam 3 trailers. Up next is an image of a place called the Temple of Prophecy, definitely meant to take place in Selin. If you haven't caught on by now, Selin would have been the new Medigbo. There's a lot of detail here, especially on the flooring with the leaves and some tiles turned up. We can see what looks like another planet in the sky, as well as these statues right here which look to be completely original. It could be that the people that lived here looked more like this instead of the Blue Man group we got in Serious Sam 2. Interesting thing to note is that this is referenced as 01, possibly being the first level. The next image shows a courtyard, possibly being the one on top of the stairway that we saw in the last image. The little gazebo in the center looks like a perfect spot to place a weapon. The next image shows off more of the temple, or rather what looks like more ruins. I'd like to call attention to 2 different things. First off, the architecture here is more consistent with Flowterra from Serious Sam 2, broken down arches and such. And secondly, there's this weird little red circle. It has like a white line sticking out of it. Maybe it's a small red balloon, or maybe it's a remnant from the Serious editor. I'm not sure. This next image is very familiar. It's that pathway that leads to the first puzzle in the jungle I spoke of earlier, and we can see what looks like a monkey statue in the back near the archway. The next one has a few interesting things. On the left side we have what looks like a drone hovering around, and on the right side we have what looks like one of those lizard eggs. And further right we can see one of those big monkey statues that you can feed in Serious Sam 2. The more I look at it, the more I think it's a remake of Riverdance, just more elevated. We can see a small house here, and both sides of the gorge are connected by bridges leading to a central rock. Nothing else to note. Next is level 4, the White City. It just shows off more of what was Ursel. We see some more architecture, plant life, and statues. More importantly, mental banners, like we were supposed to have in 3BFE. Maybe it's my personal opinion, but having these things around makes the whole invasion aesthetic a lot more believable. This next one is really interesting because it's named directly after another Serious Sam 2 location, the Kronor Moon Base. It looks like it would have been a pathway that either leads to Area 5100 or maybe a path to the airfield that Sam captures. We can see some more mental imagery and the base in the back, but we also have the beheaded plasma gunner who, well, isn't beheaded? So just a Syrian plasma gunner, I guess. We also see a yellow beheaded soldier. I wonder what he does. Next is a script with some interesting things in it. It looks like the albinos are meant to have hair and fur. There's this new enemy called a biker and an armored soldier who has quite a few things that he can do. Next is some NPCs. First off we have a female Tantu, whoever they are. Next is Natrixa, then we see a Medigbo mask, and finally the shaman. And the last little bit is just props. This one known as the hospital is interesting, as well as this telecom tower. Next up is some more scripts, now showing us the level progression with names, and it's literally just Serious Sam 2 names. I looked through everything and it's just the script for Serious Sam 2. Next we have another image of the jungle, nothing new here. An image of the Serious editor again, nothing of interest. A pretty good drawing for the Riverdance layout. Here we see another layout. We see the drop ship like in the end of the jungle. We see an albino in a cave entrance instead of the barbarian. Apparently there was a thief in the caves, maybe referencing something we'll get to later down in this iceberg. At the end of the cave we have Godzilla, not sure what, it looks like an R. Down south we have a buggy and a turret. We drive around some, encounter a rhino, and finally make it to Ursel, where we fight a tank. Basically, this is an overview of the first 4 levels of Serious Sam 2. Next up is a video displaying some new enemy mechanics. First off, we can see the original idea for the chainsaw, which was supposed to launch blades in Serious Sam 2. Next, we see a beheaded riding a werebull, and despite this being a blue beheaded rocketeer, it seems to throw 3 grenades at the player. Next up is the yellow beheaded, who turns out to be a regular rocketeer. Now we have this light blue headed one, which kind of works like the plasma firecracker. And this darker blue colored one who throws in homing mines at the player. Next up are 2 Colopsi. One is regular like we know it, but there's another one that shoots out lava rocks instead of bile. He also has a bit of a red tint to him. And finally we have the green biomechs. I'm pretty sure these guys are called biomech dominants. They're just walking cannons from TSE. I hate those things. Next is a video of Sam being able to pick up enemies' weapons after he kills them. Not too interesting really. It's a mod you can download, I'm pretty sure. We can see a early copter beheaded design. That's really all, other than a shotgun, which is just 3BFE shotgun with a wooden pump. Next is a 6-minute pre-alpha showcase of the White City level. I'll go over the interesting bits. It looks like either a trigger or these drones can detect Sam and close off an area that he's in. He also seems to have a very high jump, as well as being able to climb on things. Yeah, that was a double jump. Apparently these things are called nano collector siphons. No clue what they really do. Next we get to see the Tommy gun, which uses the Last Hope model. Looks kinda cool from this perspective, but it's no classic Thompson. Sam actually dashes to move out of the way of these werebulls, pretty similar to the Serious Sam Reborn mod. I'll make a video on that someday, don't worry. Next is the rocket launcher. It looks pretty much the same, save for some more prominent mandibles? These things? We can see Sam use the Rocketeer's launcher against the Last Hope jetpack soldier. The grenade launcher seems to have stayed the same at least. It has Serious Sam 4's multi-grenade effect though, and that's pretty much everything. Next is the Colt upgrade demonstration. We can see the Colt fire and burst here, as well as the laser, which now turns bullets into remote bullets. So no matter where you shoot, it'll hit an enemy. Next, I think, is just more damage until we can get the last one, which is no reloads. In the back there, you can also see the Syrian sword and a rocket laser gun. That's a mod for those who don't know, which gives you a rocket laser gun. Back to the levels, we have a render for the final area in the first level of Clear Planet. It looks like hell, so it looks good. Some more renders. This one has an armor pickup up on this plateau you can see here. You can see some steam rising from the bottom, which you're probably able to ride up there. Next is that rocket launcher that you get oh so cruelly taken from you at the beginning of Clear Planet. Next render is a map called Shrine of the Gods. It looks like another higher elevation of Ursul, nothing that we haven't seen before. Some more renders of the shrine. Another one that has the building a bit overgrown. I particularly like this tree in the center with the overgrown ropes all around it. It's like the tree is spreading to the architecture. Another render of the White City that we saw in the earlier video. Next is two more renders of the precipice. One has cloud effects and the other doesn't. I think this is meant to be that one hill you see after you meet Dino. Good dog. Another render of the White City. This one has the nano collector siphon right there in the center. It doesn't look too out of place, so I don't think Mental brought those here. Maybe he just repurposed them. Another White City render. Another precipice render. This time it looks like the other side of the place we saw last time. In this render we can see the entrance or exit of the cell and caves, and to the right of the ruins we can see some shotgun shells, as well as this walkway all the way up there. I wonder if there's a secret up there, kind of like in the second encounter. Next is this full render of the map layout for the precipice. We can see another planet in this image right between the statues. We have what looks to be a broken bridge and a waterfall right in front of us. Next is more of the first level, the Temple of Prophecy. It looks like we have some beaches, health, armor, shotgun shells. It seems like we start at this water level elevation and work our way up to the precipice. Next is a render of what is likely the Temple of Prophecy. It likely leads into one of those mini courtyards that we've seen in the renders. Next we see Sam exiting the cell and caves. I like the blue and green contrast, it's nice. The next few images are just more of the temple's architecture and plant life. This next image though, wow, okay, this is a bit to unpack. We're in what looks like to be Ursul or the White City suburbs. The unbeheaded plasma soldier is now beheaded. We have some regular and winged clear, a warble to the left, a harpy, a biomech miner, some more beheaded, the cucurbido, a red Knum, and oh yeah, Mordecai the Summoner Jr. over here. Oh, and dual wielding. The next image we see some Syrian architecture in writing, but I think these are just regular hieroglyphs. We have some more Syrian stuff. On the top right is a massive Syrian statue that we can also find in 3BFE, just smaller. Next we see Sam finding a bunch of cucurbido with this Star Trek looking gateway in the back. I wonder if this is a Syrian dominated planet since so much of their stuff is here. I'm almost positive this isn't Sirius, but interesting nonetheless. Another Syrian image. Here we can see the statue I was talking about earlier. The next video is a grenade multiplication test where one grenade turns into 5 and so on and so forth until this tester's computer blew up and took the entirety of Croteam's department with him. Here's a more complete view of the start of the jungle level, this time with more recognizable features like the huts, weird rock, and the chicken sacrificing shrine. And last off we see an image of the White City or Ursul suburbs again, with a lot going under construction here. Alright, so when I wrote this script like 2 months ago, these files, the ones that I'm about to show you, they were not present in the mega file. So I'm about to go completely off the cuff and just let you know what I see. So here in this first screenshot, we can see I believe that's the 10 health files. We got a little bridge over here. It's a nice ambience. A little bridge crossing a river. Nothing special though. It seems to be probably up to the way to the precipice. The second picture that we have looks to be the entrance to the cell and caves. Up there you can see that walkway that I talked about earlier that may or may not hold a secret. Next is a level progression chart. I'm not quite sure what level this is supposed to be, but considering all the red, it might be something on Clear Planet. This next one has a bit of a militaristic look, so I'm guessing this might be Kronor. In this next image, we have another picture in the Selene Caves. You always gotta love it, the mix between blue and green. The next few images show off the geometry of a certain level. Definitely might be the precipice as well, but I'm not quite sure. Of that same level, we also have genuine concept art, which is always nice to see. Another level progression chart here, except without the steps, it's just an overlay. And I left the best for last. So in this picture we have what looks like the Kronor moon base again, considering the militaristic architecture. Nothing too much to see. We have some branching paths and we have that heater building in the center. This next one is what looks to be Branchester, or Woodstock, one of the two, but an updated version where it looks like you might be able to take a path either up in the trees or you can stay on the ground and you can fight there. All these force fields here are pretty interesting. This second image again is what I'm guessing to be Branchester or Woodstock. If not, I don't know, dude, it's Endor, I guess. And this final one is the most interesting because it doesn't look like anything in Serious Sam. But it is. It's like this weird gas factory. Everything is all grayed out, and I'm pretty sure those are all supposed to be flamethrower enemies. They kind of remind me of the Nazi zombie, you know, the one from Serious Sam 2, but, you know, I don't know, this just looks weird. It's kind of off-putting. I don't know where this would be. Maybe in Kronor, maybe like subterranean Kronor. I'm not sure. And that is everything that was found in the Serious Sam 2 Remastered Reddit leak. Damn, that was a lot. Mental's Eye Drop. Mental's Eye Drop is this strange undulating blob that we can find twice in Karnak. First in this secret underwater hole in the Ankh Pool, and the second time in the gravity-defying red light room. There's no analysis from Natrixa when we come near it, but it's likely a time travel anomaly caused by Sam going back in time. Think of it as a tear in space-time. Don't take my word for it though, because I honestly have no idea. In the Flesh model leak. If you remember on the top of the iceberg, we talked about Serious Sam's predecessor, In the Flesh. And though there have only been a few images of some levels, we also have some leaked enemy models. We have a complete render of a Cyberman, an uncompleted version of a Cyberman, a Cybermorph, which is likely a mix between a man and a cyborg, a knight, which was probably the inspiration for the Dark Souls knights in Siberian Mayhem, and an enemy called the Terminator with a shotgun. And we also have some animals.
Oh my goodness!
Serious Sam 3 is a reboot of the mission pack idea. This is stating that Serious Sam 3 would have been another addition to the First Encounter mission pack idea, so we'd have Serious Sam 1 consisting of Sam in the present in 3BFE, then Sam going back in time to the second encounter, getting everything he needs to power up the time lock, then going to the first encounter. Yeah, no, I don't believe this. I couldn't find any evidence of this. Serious Sam and the Talos Principle are in the same universe. This theory states that Serious Sam and the Talos Principle take place in the Sam universe. There are a few things to support this. Mostly evident is the hologram of a kamikaze in the desert levels. Among other things, there's also many Serious Sam references that I showcased earlier on the iceberg. But if this theory is true, we can clearly see that the Talos Principle takes place on Earth, which means that Sam would have succeeded in his mission, preventing the end of the world. People would then progress in technology so far that they create these robots with minds of their own so they can explore the remains of Earth after they pass on. And this is all just headcanon, but choosing Sam as the voice of God is canon to me. John J. Dick works great as the voice of Elohim in the first game. Word to the Mothership. Word to the Mothership was the original name for Serious Sam: The Next Encounter. The name comes from the plot where Sam gets a call from a Syrian mothership, then goes back in time to go check it out. Thus, Word to the Mothership. Thief. Do you remember the thief we saw in the Serious Sam 2 remaster drawing? Well, the thief was originally supposed to be an enemy in Serious Sam that would sneak up on the player and steal your ammo before running away with it. This was later scrapped and turned into the Serious Sam 2 multiplayer character, Gary the Thief. And with that entry, we covered the Abyss. On to the next layer, the Underdark. Devolver Digital bought Crow Team. Back in October of 2020, it was announced by Devolver Digital that they acquired Crow Team. This was deemed a logical step after their continued partnership since 2009 with the release of Serious Sam HD: The First Encounter. Personally, I believe Crow Team is in good hands with Devolver. I don't see them creating another 2K game situation and giving us back the blue people. Serious Sam 4 Rushed. Rushed would normally be an odd term to give a game that was in development for 8 years. However, Serious Sam 4 has often been given that moniker due to the undercooked textures, strained design choices, and other things that lead people to believe that it was indeed somehow rushed. And the nature of this comes mostly from the fact that this game was partially developed during the pandemic, which stopped a lot of companies in their tracks from delivering products on time. Even Serious Sam 4 was pushed back a month to have some more maintenance done on it. So yeah, in a way, Serious Sam 4 was rushed. Serious Floor. I feel like this may be a reference to Serious Sam's place on the website The Cutting Room Floor, which showcases cut content for many games, including the Serious Sam games. I'm not too sure though. Serious Sam Tower Defense cancelled game. I could find absolutely no evidence on a cancelled Serious Sam Tower Defense game, even though it seems like the Serious Sam indie series would be a perfect fit for it. The only scrapped or cancelled game listed by Crow Team are In the Flesh, TUOR, and the early Serious Sam builds. Crow Team Incubator is disbanded. The Crow Team Incubator is a subdivision in Crow Team founded in 2015 that consists of 5 different mini studios that all share a building with Crow Team proper in Croatia. The incubator teams are mostly known for focusing on the indie development side of Serious Sam. You might know them for I Hate Running Backwards and the admittedly addictive Serious Sam Tormental. Their last game was in 2019 though, so with 5 years of silence, we can probably safely conclude that it was disbanded, most likely due to not creating enough revenue. Mostly because people don't really play Serious Sam for the indie side, even though some of their games are pretty fun. The Last Hope is a Serious Sam 2 reimagining. Though it isn't a reimagining of Serious Sam 2, it does have a few similarities. In my Do You Remember the Last Hope video, I made a comparison between most of the bosses basically being a reskinned Quango, as well as the most evident one being fighting a colorful dragon on top of floating islands, which is basically the premise of Floterra. Along with Serious Sam rallying natives to aid in the fight against Mental, although in Serious Sam 2 it's more of a means to an end to get all the medallion pieces, but there are obvious similarities. Serious Sam's Multiverse Timeline. Alright, so this is another long one, so get ready. So with the release of Serious Sam 4, we have the Serious Sam Multiverse for whatever reason. Now with this multiverse comes 2 different timelines, the main timeline and the indie/spin-off timeline, so technically 3, but I'ma just call it 2. So here's my proposition for the timelines. Starting off, we have Serious Sam The Last Hope, then Serious Sam 4. Inside Serious Sam 4, we split off into Siberian Mayhem, where future Sam recruits Siberian Mayhem Sam to help him out at the end of the game. And for now, that one stays just there. After Serious Sam 4 comes 3BFE, and in between 3BFE, we get Jewel of the Nile. After Jewel of the Nile, we have the first encounter. In the middle of the first encounter, we split off again. In the main timeline, Sam doesn't find the sign of Amun-Ra in Metropolis because it was stolen by the children of Amun-Ra, after which Legend of the Beast happens. Instead, we have a timeline where Sam does find it, Serious Sam's Bogus Detour, after which he goes to a little detour to Greece, Turkey, and space before coming back and continuing with the first encounter. Adjacent to the first encounter, we have the random encounter in its own timeline. The only reason I'm putting here because like in the first encounter, we fight Ugzan. Next in the main timeline comes the second encounter. Even though it may be debated, I'm still putting it here. Now Serious Sam 2 goes into its own timeline. It doesn't deviate from any prior ones. Before the events of Serious Sam 2, we have the events of the next encounter. We see in the next encounter, humanity is still alive and, well, in the early days of the war, but with an active time lock. In my headcanon, Sam was about to use this time lock, and then the Syrian Council rerouted him to the events of Serious Sam 2. Before the events of Serious Sam 2, we also have the events of Serious Sam Advance. And now we have 2 more games left, those being Double D and Tormental. I believe Double D happens after the events of Serious Sam 2. After 2, Mental escapes into space, which would give him reason enough to hand over control of Earth to one of his generals while he's gone, like what happens in Serious Sam Double D. Nettie is also a lot more advanced in this game, like the Serious Sam 2 version. And finally, Tormental. During the events of Tormental, Sam is dispatched by the EDF to modern Egypt, where he enters his temple to fight the Eye of Mental. However, before he beats it, the Eye sucks in Sam's soul, leaving his body dead. During the game, you get to fight through the mind of Mental before you finally get to fight an actual piece of himself. After beating him, Mental explains that there is no coming back. He's already started hurling the moon at the planet as it is in 3 BFE, and that this version of Sam is now stuck fighting inside Mental's mind. And most likely, if Mental dies, this version of Sam does too. This is the only version of Sam so far that we know that has failed in his mission. However, Mental does speak briefly about how he sees other versions of Sam as well, meaning that he is somehow omniscient, possibly meaning there's only one of him, but many more Sams. So the mission isn't technically over. So where do we place this? Well, it happens right before the mooning of Earth, so it would be right alongside 3 BFE. Oh, and there's also the future timeline. Future Sam interacts with an undisclosed amount of Sam so far. So far we only know of 4 and Siberian Mayhem. I Hate Running Backwards fits nowhere. I mean, you could technically fit it, I guess, alongside First Encounter, sort of, because you could fight Ugzan, but he's not quite Ugzan, he's this robot Ugzan, so maybe he's a reconstruction of Ugzan? So maybe it'll be right after the First Encounter? Probably? I don't know, it's so confusing. I probably didn't make any sense reading all of this. Like, this is wild. Serious Sam 4 Crossbow Promo. Before the launch of Serious Sam 4, Crow Team tweeted out this image showing off an office chair crossbow, saying, "Pre-order Serious Sam 4 now and get a free crossbow." Little did we know, we'd actually get one in Siberian Mayhem. Ugzan 7. In Siberian Mayhem, we can overhear some enemy soldiers talking about how Sam beat Ugzan 7, who was supposedly 140 tentasquids tall, however many that is. Some other side conversations also talk about how this happened in Oslo. This leads many to believe that Serious Sam 5 will be another prequel ending with a fight against Ugzan 7 in Oslo. Alan Ledovec left. Alan Ledovec was one of Crow Team's co-founders. He left Crow Team not too long after the release of Serious Sam 4. Apparently now he's working on Google Stadia's cloud platform. Best of luck, man. The Talos Principle 3. Crow Team has so far not given any hints about the Talos Principle 3. Most likely they'll first release a DLC for the second game before we hear anything else, and of course they also released the remaster of the first game. Serious Sam comic book. Though there is no official Serious Sam comic book, even though that would have been literally the coolest thing ever, there are fan renditions like this one called Serious Sam Valley of the Kings by an artist named Judge. He's also done some renders for Doom, Duke Nukem, as well as some others. Serious Sam references in other games. Being a big name in the boomer shooter community, we give a lot of developers good reason to reference you in their games. For instance, in Viscera Fest, we can find this.
This is getting serious.
The Ultra Kill rocket launcher has the name the SRS cannon, very similar to our SBC cannon. Project Warlock, we can find Sam himself. You've been in better shape, bud. There's a smaller game called Onirism with many Serious Sam characteristics in it, like having clear skeletons, harpies, and kamikazes. I can't get over the fact that this game is so cute and I want it now. Okay, side note, I bought the game. Holy shit, this game is freaking awesome. It's like Serious Sam mixed with A Hat in Time. I love it so much, dude. It is 100%. I would recommend it. It is awesome. They literally have the Serious Sam rocket launcher. Same name and everything. Same with the P-Law. Dude, the chainsaw, it's awesome. And finally, a reference from a big fish, Near Automata. If you wander around the desert long enough, you might encounter these robots with bombs that'll run at you screaming like kamikaze. There are, of course, many other references or even appearances, so if you got any you'd like to share, please do so in the comment section. And that ends this layer. On to our final layer, the trench. Sam is real. It's true, guys. Everything is real. I saw it myself. There are biomechs stalking me throughout the night. Gnars often perform drive-bys by my residence. I moved all the way to the west coast, and now they're over here too. Natrixa is corrupting Sam's mind. Natrixa is an invaluable piece of tech engineered by Professor Gottlieb Kiesel and implanted to the cerebral cortex, giving her access to Sam's audio and visuals, as well as being able to assess and give Sam information straight to his corneas, though normally she's attached to an EDF network being updated like she does in Serious Sam 4 and 3, she can also update herself and give herself directives, almost like she has a mind of her own. The idea of her corrupting Sam's mind comes from the gradual increase in ridiculousness in the Serious Sam series. See it like this. In The Last Hope 4 and 3, we see Natrixa as a regular, standard interface, and we're going to pretty much mostly realistic places. She starts to become a little more self-aware in Serious Sam the first encounter and developing a bit of a personality. The ridiculousness starts to ramp up in Serious Sam the second encounter until it all culminates in Serious Sam 2, where she's completely autonomous from Sam's personality and going to a whole bunch of weird places like the giant junkyard. The more you look at it, the more it looks like a story of a war hero going insane, and it may be Natrixa's doing, whether consciously or by defect due to prolonged usage and effects from time travel. I'm just saying there may be more to Natrixa than she lets on, but as long as she's voiced by Ellie Fairman again, I'd let her corrupt my mind any day. Sam's quest is pointless. This is a theory I've thought of already. I first came across it when watching FrameRater's Serious Sam 3 BFE feature video. At the end we see Earth destroyed like usual, but Frame brings up a good point. If Sam succeeded in his mission, that would have stopped the Earth from ever being destroyed, resetting the Moon and Earth back to their spots. But that's not what we see. Earth remains destroyed, and we might have to assume the possibility that this version of Sam didn't make it. We will never meet Mental. Financially, it would make sense for us never to see Mental in Serious Sam. It would mean Crow Team could keep pumping out more Serious Sam games until either the IP or company goes belly up, though I have faith we'll see him someday. Maybe not anytime soon, but someday. Crow Team is mental. So Crow Team isn't actually mental, however their in-game depiction of the big heads was at some point. The big head was meant to be the original design for Mental, along with the idea that he'd be a brain in a jar, though I think I like the Eldritch Being idea more. The next game will be another prequel. I mentioned before that most people have the idea that the next Serious Sam game would be another prequel, most likely taking place in Oslo. Truth is, we don't know. However, Crow Team's latest track record does show a tendency to move to prequels right now. The Cult of the Eightfold Manifestation. This cult is a different name for the Octanians, one of the major antagonists in Serious Sam 4 and Siberian Mayhem. They are a fanatical military organization hailing from the Sigma Octanus system. They've blindly allied themselves with Mental and plan to turn all of humanity into mindless beasts. In total, there are two named people of great importance to the cult. First is Mental, and the second is the Octifex Maximus, which translates roughly into the Great Octo Creator. Most likely a person with religious significance such as a pharaoh, or maybe a heavenly figure to the Octanians. We don't really know. Serious Sam possible reboot. Though there is no talk of rebooting Serious Sam as a whole, there was talk of rebooting Serious Sam 2, which we went over in depth earlier in the iceberg. Maybe one day there will be a complete reboot, who knows. The Kukulkan Conundrum. This is something interesting to think about. In Serious Sam we see a bunch of different religions, but we've only ever seen one god. We see churches, mosques, and temples of different sorts, and Mental himself isn't a god as he can be classified into the Humta species. Kukulkan, on the other hand, isn't affiliated or created by Mental, and when analyzed by Natrixa, she says that he indeed belongs to the species of gods as seen by his alias, the Wind God, making him the oldest god and in-universe religious figure seen in Serious Sam. So does that make the Mayan religion the true one in Serious Sam? It's just something to think about. The Ancient Guardian. You may remember in the first encounter you have to fight this massive lava golem before entering Karnak, but did you know that he's not actually Mental affiliated? He's simply there to prevent anyone from entering Karnak, as the city itself was sealed after the riot of Thebes, which is where the people of Memphis invaded and stole many Syrian artifacts. I have a video in the works all about this and how it may or may not be linked to the Children of Amun-Ra, so be on the lookout for that, whenever that'll come out. The Children of Amun-Ra. The Children are a terrorist cult-like group in the Serious Sam universe who may or may not have been behind the riot of Thebes to get their hands on the sign of Amun-Ra. They worship a Khnum they have trapped under the Great Obelisk, thinking it's one of their Egyptian gods, also known as Khnum. They kinda went dark until the year 2063, where they committed a terrorist attack for the desecration of one of their holy sites. These sites are now known as Syrian complexes. Since then, they've gone radio silent. The Bright Island Failsafe. The island known as Bright Island is a time travel failsafe, catching off-course time travelers and saving them from presumably being flung into outer space. Most likely built by the Syrians, we can see a couple of residences here at the Steps of Despair, meaning that at least somebody stayed here for a little while. And that concludes the Ultimate Serious Sam Iceberg, though the video isn't quite over yet, as we still have this addendum section to go over in the bottom. So without any further ado, let's end this in the addendums. Again, there are some things here that simply aren't interesting, or I couldn't find anything about, or it's simply untrue, so I'll be skipping those. The second encounter reused and cut the first encounter levels. For those of you that have gotten your hands on the Serious Sam Alpha, you may have noticed that the first few levels look somewhat familiar. That's because the Legend of the Beast from the second encounter repurposed these levels with admittedly less success than the Alpha. Serious Sam 4 Cinematic in Unreal. Though the Serious engine looks nice, Unreal is a way better fit for trailers. And though it doesn't say what engine it's made on, it's obviously Unreal Engine and definitely not Serious Engine. Hilarious Harry is Proto-Serious Sam. The multiplayer character Hilarious Harry was the earliest concept design for the character of Serious Sam before he even was a character. Original Serious Sam 3 concept split into Serious Sam 3, 4, and 5. The original idea for Serious Sam 3 was to go back to the basics by making Egypt its setting. However, the idea may have been to more closely mirror the first 3 games in the series. 3 BFE and the first encounter would take place in Egypt, Serious Sam 4 and the second encounter take place in different countries all over the globe, and Serious Sam 5, in line with Serious Sam 2, would take place on different planets. Just a possibility. The second encounter canonicity debates. Many people doubt the canonicity of the second encounter, mostly due to the fact that nothing really happens. At the end of the first encounter, Sam is headed to Sirius. In the end of the second encounter, Sam is still headed to Sirius. Not to mention the geographical inconsistencies of Persepolis being located in Iran, but the Tower of Babel being located in Iraq. Unless, of course, this is a whole different Tower of Babel because Iran got jelly of Iraq having one, and then they had this massive dick measuring contest, and now they're all dead. Legend of the Beast critics. The Legend of the Beast sucks and I refuse to talk about it. Go watch my video on it. Serious Sam 4 Pope DLC. There is no Pope DLC, even though I wish there really was, and even so you'd probably run into some issues with the papacy on the legal side. I think it was good enough blowing up the Vatican. Bright Island Rushed. Bright Island is a more modern counterpart to Dark Island, and even though it's miles better than that mission pack, it still has some issues due to being rushed. This comes from Soles, whose comment I pinned in my Bright Island video. Siberian Mayhem was planned as DLC for Father Mikhail. I couldn't find any evidence that Father Mikhail was meant to be in Siberian Mayhem, however he is posthumously mentioned by Igor Ledov in that peaceful train ride in Siberian Mayhem. Rest in peace, Father Mikhail. The Greek Encounter. The Greek Encounter is a top-down shoot-'em-up game made by Eric Ruth Games and published by Devolver Digital. In this game, you fight through Greece and finish stages at these teleporters. At the end of every stage, you get to have a boss fight. Throughout Greece, you'll collect some classic weapons like the Tommy gun, cannon, and laser gun, and that's all there really is. Like the next encounter, the Greek Encounter is freeware, so you can find it and download it by just looking it up on Google. Max Payne Serious Sam pre-order disc. There's a pre-order disc for Max Payne with some Serious Sam content on it. It's pretty hard to find. I myself actually have a Serious Sam Rainbow Six Vegas disc. Anyway, the Max Payne disc says it has 5 Serious Sam demo levels, but they're in fact not for the campaign, as clicking single player simply boots you into the Karnak demo. Rather, it's for a demo version for Seriously Warped Deathmatch in the first encounter. A demo inside a demo. The levels you can choose are Badlands, Mobius, Stairway, Eclipse, Coliseum, and Grid. None of these levels have any music because those tracks are only on the full game. Oh, and finally, we have Sam's classic The First Encounter model. What a strange disc. New Fusion patch. Serious Sam Fusion has not had an official patch since 2019. Here are the patch notes. Nothing too big to report. Safe to say that Fusion has been abandoned or quote-unquote finished. Crow Team, listen, I just need one more patch. Just one. Just one. Fix the damn cannonball trajectory when in close quarters! The First Encounter Beta. The Serious Sam Beta in 2000 was home to some interesting things, some unfinished weapon models, old alpha sound effects. The medium armor pickup was also brown instead of green. Harpies were still using their early models, as you can see here along with the clear. The green ammo pack also had a bit more of a militarized look and had the Serious Bomb logo on it. It's what you'd expect from a beta. Finally, before we end the addendum section, I'd like to end us off with one final entry. And it deserves a layer of its own. In the classic second encounter, if you shoot the bridge with a rocket, you'll get a boom message. Wowee, that was a long video. I'd like to give a quick thank you for everybody who lent me their voices for their project, and thank you for watching. I can already tell that this video was a great improvement over my first one, and I hope you guys can see that too. I'm sure somewhere here or there I made a mistake or something, and if I did, please do tell me, drop it in the comments. If you guys have any more addendums that you want to add, and if there's enough of them, I wouldn't mind making a part 2 addressing mistakes and adding new subjects. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the ultimate Serious Sam Iceberg. Please enjoy as these few credits roll, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye, be safe, and don't you dare go hollow.